QPR, QPR, Six Park Rangers are on the up and up. QPR, QPR, now we're heading for European Cup.
Hello and welcome to the QPR podcast. I am David Fraser. We bring you this podcast as QPR are currently unbeaten in the league all this year. I'm joined tonight by three other QPR fans. To my right, co-founder of the podcast is Paul Finney.
Evening, David. How are you?
Good evening, Paul. Very good. I see you are sporting a Northern Ireland, what would we call it? Hoodie?
Yeah.
Hoodie, football hoodie.
70s style hoodie.
Blatantly a Christmas present.
Blatantly so.
Who from?
My daughter.
It's good. It's good. She's done well. She's done well.
It's supposed to be 70s style because she reckons I'm not old.
Yeah.
But then she thought Queen Victoria was around the 70s.
Extra large?
So I could be heading towards 3Xs, and that's not just the beer.
Giacomo.
I'm worried.
Take it from someone who knows. Giacomo.
I'm worried.
We also have John Woods.
Hello.
Hi, John.
Good
Coming
evening.
back for a second time,
Second
third time?
indeed, yeah.
Second time. And Alan Charles.
Hello there.
Coming back for second time.
Indeed, yes.
Welcome everybody. Anyone that hasn't been listening to us for a long time, if you want to catch up on old episodes, you can do on our website. Go to qprpod.co.uk, where you can also help support the show, and we thank everybody that's done that this season so far. You can follow us on Facebook, and you can interact with us on Twitter at QPRpod. Right, that goes through everything. We do have a really good interview coming up. I'm saying it's good. We haven't done it yet, but certainly a good interviewee who we've spoken to before, who should be interesting, which is our goalkeeper, Alex Smithies. So he's coming up later in the show. Before then, we come to you off the back of our second away win of the season, which is pretty good, no, Paul?
You can't argue with that. After my wins last week about the FA Cup.
So, what do you think? What do you think compared to where we were a week ago, which was post MK Dons, as you say? We were all a bit down on the podcast. We were all a bit down, comma, on the podcast, not down on the podcast. We are down on the podcast, probably anyway. What do you think?
I think we've now pulled away from the relegations on a wee bit. We can breathe, we can relax, and we've actually got a situation where we've gone from no one could score goals to not actually knowing who we can play, who won't score now. Washington's got.
Say that again?
Well, you think about it, everyone has played up front now in the last few games has scored. So
Yeah.
the dilemma before that was we couldn't score with a 20-foot dartboard with a dart. And now we're flying goals in from quite a few directions. So it's nice to see the kids coming through. It's nice to have a bit of a striker selection issue, which we need at big time. And the midfielder kicking in with the goals as well. So it's all looking positive after one win away to the mighty Burton.
Very good. What about you, chaps? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we had a good Christmas. Compared to what we thought it might be. It was a bit doom and gloom before it started. We had a good win against Cardiff. And I think it's been a good time. So I think it's kicking on. I'm glad he's playing the youngsters. He's giving the youngsters a chance. I think that's sort of galvanised the squad quite a bit. And I don't think we should get comfortable yet necessarily, but it is looking good, looking much better, a lot more positive.
We can breathe.
Yeah.
So we're 14th, I think, 33 points on the boards. Alan?
Well, I can't disagree with what's been said. I think we probably still need to look for a striker, to be quite honest. People are putting goals in. The performances are not consistent. I think that's the issue that we've got. And I think I always said my glass is normally half full, but I'm a little bit worried still. So
Okay. Really?
Indeed.
I mean, we've got. What are we worried about going down?
No. I don't.
Just worried about the general outlook.
It's the outlook and it's the consistency of performance. If we can get some consistency, then that would be great. But I think consistency is the issue.
I think what worries me more than anything is the fact that if you actually look at if you take the FA Cup in isolation and look at it, if we had got Coventry next round, the fifth round, everyone's taking it seriously. We're always talking about how we're skint and we haven't got much money, so it makes sense to look at that and think, do you know what, if we I think someone's trying to.
Well, he
drill
went
into
for it,
building-
didn't he? I thought the squad he picked for the
They just didn't
Kings
look
game.
motivated, did they? Anyway,
No,
I know we talked about
perhaps,
this
yeah,
last
yeah,
week, but then
yeah.
you think the big boys were all taking this, so-called big boys are taking it seriously. It could be a real good money spinner this year, and it could have given some confidence. I think someone's trying to drill into us. Are we next to a dentist?
There's building works going on in this building, and
Oh,
I
really?
think they do it at night, which is, of course, when we're recording.
She didn't know.
There's also pipes bubbling away in this room, and next door to us apparently is some kind of Lib Dem council meeting,
And I
according
have
to
said
you,
nothing
Finney.
about politics at all, because this is not a political podcast. Tory piece.
Carry on.
But the thing is about where we are is that we've got a springboard that we can actually galvanise and go forward with, and actually see if this is. Could you say consistency? And that is. Sorry. I was in the Weatherspoons before it came out. It made me a little bit tipsy. Consistency is the key to everything. If we can put some results together, Bristol City's going to be a massive game. To be fair, Middlesbrough's a massive game, but they're both winnable. The reason why that is because Bristol City will take us for granted, and Middlesbrough are in the changing. They've got the new manager. They've got everything. So I'm a bit more positive than what it was last week.
Were we suffering from just, FA Cup? We're always miserable every year about the FA Cup. We expected better, and that clouded the overall
performance.
picture a bit. And when you actually look at it, our last 5 games, I think we've lost 1 in the last 5. We've won 2. We've drawn 2. Are we guilty of jumping up and down with every result dictates our mood, and we don't really actually look at the? It is football, but should we perhaps not treat it? Should we perhaps be a bit more measured in how we're assessing how QPR are doing? We had discussions about whether Holloway should go on the podcast last week.
And I still
now we're
think-
talking about how
And
we
I
turn
still
the corner.
think his position should be reviewed at the end of the season.
Yeah.
That is still not a question of anything. We're missing thousands of fans every week. There's a reason why these people aren't coming to Loftus Road, and we've got to get into that and find out why these people aren't coming to games. Because you look at the Elsley towards away fans, it's practically nearly empty. Them blocks. There's something wrong. The people aren't coming to games. Away supporters.
Well, I
falling
think
through the floor.
Holloway. The great thing about Holloway is he's a massive fan of the club, and he does. He brings that attitude with him, and that's what we've been lacking. I think with a lot of appointments that we've had, and it was the right thing to do, and he is the man for the job, at least for the rest of the season. Tactically, I'm not sure. I think he overcomplicates things. I think his time at Sky probably clouded his judgment sometimes, and that needs to be addressed. And I think if you look at attendance averages, and I was looking at them today before I came, we're sort of getting about 14,000 for the last couple of seasons. That's whether it's Jimmy Floyd, Hasselbank, whoever.
But don't forget, they're counted the ones that don't turn up as well.
Okay, yeah.
Do
perhaps,
they still do that?
Yeah, they do. You
Yeah.
still count.
I
yourself.
don't-
every season ticket holder is counted irrespective of.
I think
Right,
the atmosphere
whether
around the
they're there.
stadium is better than it was. Definitely. But
Okay.
I think we're just. If we looked like we're going for promotion, we're having a promotion season, we'd get more. It's fairly obvious we're not in that position, so I don't think we're going to. But I think it's the atmosphere around the stadium. Even when we lost at MK Dons, I don't think anyone was. We were resigned to it, perhaps, but it was. I didn't feel any anger in the stadium. I think everyone's on board with what Holloway's trying to do. The youngsters are playing.
Well, losing to MK
Yeah.
McDonald's is never acceptable.
True.
And,
There was a couple of Wimbledon supporters sitting near me as well, and they looked very, very annoyed.
What
as
was
you
it?
can-
Is that not?
Oh, what? They were wanting QPR.
Yeah,
Kensington
yeah.
Club.
Well, Wimbledon not playing that day. Okay.
Is it not an issue though, getting to the point, and I feel the same way as you probably, where you don't get annoyed if we don't play well or don't lose, and actually that's why people don't come along to the stadium.
Because
Well,
it's
perhaps,
so sort of.
Yeah.
Because do you know what, you've
Meh.
got to be committed to be there.
I wonder if we've talked the last few years about get real QPR fans. The days of thinking we have a birthright to be in the Premier League are gone. We're not that sort of club. We are a championship club. We've been saying that the last few years. And I wonder if this is the year the penny is dropping collectively with the fan base. And as a result, there's this kind of disillusionment that Alan's talking about, or kind of acceptance, because maybe this is the year everybody's sort of thinking, strap in, because we're probably going to be here. Probably going to be like this for 2, 3, 4 years.
I wouldn't say it was a disillusion. I think it's more an acceptance that amongst the hardcore fans that says this is what you're going to get, and this is how it's
But
going to be
remaining
delivered.
in the Championship doesn't float one's boat particularly, does it? This is what's going to happen for the next 3 years.
No, I
We'll be
think-
all right. We'll win a third of our games. We'll draw a third. We'll lose the other third.
So I think you're wrong. I think people want us to compete in the Championship rather than just survive in it. They'd like to see us win more games, like to see us be more competitive at games, win more away games, win more home games, and give it a damn good go, which is what we do at
We're
times.
doing more than survive. I know last year the table looks like we just survived, but we competed. We were clear with however
We've
many
lost
games it
30
was to
games
go.
in a year. That's a lot in anyone's book. And that's not me being like, oh, Jesus, I want Premiership football. I hate the Premiership. I can live without the Premiership for the rest of my life. I don't want to see half and half scarves, ticket touts, and morons who don't give an absolute arse about my football club stand there wanting to be entertained and not realising the wrong game, watching the phones like that. With it's ridiculous things we play Man U.
I think the problem is, and it is a case of acceptance. We have to accept we're in a transitional stage. We're not going to be competing for promotion, certainly this season. Probably not next season.
But we can't
It's a
compete
long-
every game, surely.
Yeah. But we can't. But I think Holloway sort of gets that attitude from the players. I don't think
Okay.
they give up. Compared to when Hasselbank, certainly when Redknapp and all the rest of it was in charge, you could see players give up or not give a toss. But now, I don't think you get that impression from the players. They really want to win, and they will go 2-0 down, and they'll give it everything they've got
that's
to get
true.
back into the game.
Whatever. But then don't go 2-0 down in the first place.
Exactly, but at least I don't think you'd have had that 2 years ago. You wouldn't have had that attitude from them. They'd have just accepted, we're going to lose this one,
Maybe.
Oh, that is what it felt like. I'm sure, I don't want to. They're professional players, so I don't want to say anything bad. But it felt like that to the crowd. But now it doesn't feel like that. They feel okay. I think a lot of the crowd think Holloway's made a few bad decisions there. We're 2-0 down, but they give it everything to get back in the game. I think, and it's.
That's a good
I
point.
think
You're very positive, John.
I am. I've seen a lot of football at
You
QPR.
know that's very suspect.
I
On
know,
this
probably.
podcast.
I think
We've
we've.
got you here. Yeah.
Bit
Well,
harsh.
he's my Yankton, the
Yeah.
yin and yang.
Yeah, let's not talk about Paul's Yang.
It's
not,
just,
not again.
I'm terrible because I bring my two little kids, and now they scream and shout at the ref and the players, just as I do. But
That's what it should be.
I think we're in a better place. I really like the attitude of the players now.
Okay.
Sometimes they play badly, sometimes the tactics are wrong. But maybe I've just been there too long and I'm resigned to it.
No, that's a fair point.
I think we're in a better place, but I maintain there's not. Football fans, football thrives on excitement. Excitement / jeopardy. Either the excitement of, we might get up, we might get in the playoffs, or bloody hell, we might go down. We've got to really kind of dig it out.
Yeah.
I feel like that we haven't got that at the moment because, okay, you might be a pessimist who thinks we will go down, but we ain't. We're not going down. We're not going up. It's just going to be one of those. And it felt a bit like that last year. I know we struggled to pick up that final point we needed at the end of the season, but pretty much, once Holloway came in, we were safe. And I think maybe, actually, John, you raise a good point, which is generally what you're saying is have a look at the bigger picture. It is much better on a number of
Then what if we don't
accounts.
kick on from this and we're in the same position next season after?
I'm not sure we
Worst
will
case
kick on immediately.
Okay. So
That's
how
what I
long
think
do
I'm
you-
saying. I think we will probably be in this phase for a while, yeah?
Then we've got to look at prices then as well. We've got to
Yeah.
look at ticket prices. Ticket prices for walk-up is ridiculous. It's just 38 quid or whatever it is to walk up on a Saturday and bring your kids into Rangers. It's just stupid.
I think the whole issue about the training ground, about our new ground, I think we're not in a place to go up necessarily. It'd be great if we did, and we could have a great season under Holloway next season. He might have built everything he needs, so we could do. But the fact is, as a club structure, we're not a Premiership club, and we're a Championship club.
I think it's
but
like Bournemouth on the Premiership club, and you could probably look at them and say, should they be there? Should Huddersfield be there? You can compete if you run it properly. What we're suffering from is when we did get in the Premiership, we absolutely wasted it.
Absolutely,
and we
yeah.
went completely down. There was a million roads to choose, and we choose one of the wrong ones, the only wrong one. So you can't gauge them. I think.
What, throwing money at it?
Well, throwing money at it, throwing the wrong players at it, getting people in for egos and airlines
we
and
didn't improve
stupidness.
our infrastructure.
No.
we didn't. We didn't
Agreed.
get that. We should have really gone for a new training ground. We should have locked in a new stadium if that's what we feel we need, and it just didn't happen.
Well, people slag Jim Gregory off because of what happened, obviously, with Fulham Park Rangers at the end and Marlow Estates. I get all that. But what Jim did, he might have been dodgy at sometimes, but he built something that we all are living off still to this day. And it's just a shame we spent 300 million quid, whatever it was, and we still haven't got a training ground. You know, as it is, you've got the kids playing in 2 different areas, you've got the players at Hollington, which isn't good enough. So perhaps you're right, stabilise. I don't care if we go up. I don't really give a rat's. I don't care about rubbing shoulders with people who just watch games through cameras. I still can't get my head around that. And I watched the City-Liverpool game yesterday. It was brilliant because it was like total football with billion-pound players playing in a park. You know, and that's how we grew up watching that kind of football, where it was you went to be entertained. Now you go there, you see people parking buses, coaches, and anything else they can do with it. And it's all about outwitting each other. And I do think that Ian overthinks things. He you know, maybe the pundit did him his thing where he tried to do this and tried to do that. Whereas if he keeps the same team and keeps being consistent and bringing the youngsters in gradually, like Darrell came in on Saturday and by all accounts was absolutely brilliant. Now he's been back at the chump for ages. Now it'd be a real shame to take him out again. Let's keep him there for the rest of the season, see what he can do, and then make a decision on his future at the end of the season. That's the sort of things that Rangers did years and years and years ago, and we benefited from that.
So I can't disagree with that at all. So Furlong last year on the games that he played was probably one of the best players on the field when we had him on the field, and he brings quite a lot to that side of the pitch, and he does need a consistent run in the team. There's no doubt about it, and I think he'll make a big difference. It'll make a very big difference. I think Grant Hall needs to come back as well. I think I mentioned it on the last podcast. He was probably the most improved player we had last season. And if we can get him back and consistent, that will make a huge difference as well, I think. But,
Your boy did well on Saturday?
I've got a daughter. No,
Connor Washington.
Yeah, but you know what? I know I said that about Holloway, and sometimes I seem critical, because I'm not. I'm just being honest. It's what we do, whether in the pub or whether we're doing a pod. Brilliant decision to take him out of the firing line. Give him a week off, let him rest up, let him come back. And he came back a completely different person. But his problem has always been his first touch is good, he reads the game well. You just can't play him off a target man. It doesn't work. You've got to play it on the floor. That's what I said on Saturday when I seen the team. I thought, good, this is not going to be long ball. This is going to be on the floor, played into where they can run onto it, and that's their strengths. And it was great to see that again.
Well, very, very interestingly, in the first half, they were playing the long ball, and it didn't work. In the second half, they were much, much better. And the reason they were better is they started playing it on the floor. And Connor absolutely thrived on that, because he was getting the ball in the right position, he was facing the right way, and he could move with it. And that wasn't happening in the first half.
See Luongo's stats? Did you see that?
Pretty
that
good,
tweet
isn't
with his stats. 6 tackles attempted, 6 tackles won. I mean, I don't actually know if 6 is a lot for a midfielder in the game, but let's go for he's made 100% of his tackles. 5 out of 5 headers, 100% again. 51 passes, which sounds pretty meaty, doesn't it? And 1 shot, 1 goal. Did pretty well.
I think the thing about him is he's massively underrated, and because he doesn't score enough goals for an attack midfielder, we tend to look at his goal ratio, as I said last week. But he is a great player, and he can do even better. And once he starts chipping in with goals, then you've got a £5 million midfielder on your hands, and that's all it needs sometimes. I mean, it doesn't matter if Washington scored with his arse on Saturday or scored with his heel or came off. The goals make it. I remember when Les Ferdinand came to Rangers, it was, you know, just get that first goal, and then you can bounce back.
Talking about Ote.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I love that goal.
That was
I love
yeah.
that was his first ever goal,
Yeah.
because I hope he goes on to have a brilliant career here, scores a ton of goals, and his first goal will always have been... It was an accident, basically, wasn't it?
He fell over.
He fell over, and it happened to hit him,
It
and it
doesn't
went
matter.
in.
It builds. Do you know what I find really strange is Silla shows more energy in celebrating goals when he's not playing than when he does when he's playing. And you just think, if we could just get something like this. See, it all looks so much better now, doesn't it? You got like Silla, you got Washington, you got these players, you got Matt Smith who can come on for 10 minutes and terrorise defenders and everything else. And it's suddenly a different picture. Of course, we lose the next 4 or 5 games and go back to whinging again.
Lose the next 4 or 5, you'll be whinging by next Tuesday. I'm sure of it.
Bit harsh.
Shall we... let's talk to Alex Smithies.
We won't get people at Middlesbrough, I'll tell you that now.
Oh, don't say that. Whenever
No, I'm
you
telling
say
you
stuff like that, we end up losing.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a good win Saturday.
Let's talk to Alex Smithies, who's very kindly given up 10 minutes of his evening to talk to us. Hopefully, he's here now. Hi, Alex. Thank you for joining us. We're all fairly upbeat here after the win on Saturday. How are you and the boys feeling?
Yeah, I think we're definitely upbeat. I think it's definitely fair to say back-to-back league wins. I think it completely changes your outlook of where you're at, really. And I think we need to start getting a real run together and continue with the good results, because it's been a hit and miss season. We've had some low points, and I think sometimes you can get carried away after a defeat. You can also get carried away with a win. But the last certainly 6 league games, I don't think we've only lost 1 game. So that's definitely something to be positive about. And back-to-back wins is important in this league. It moves you, right up the table, which it has done.
Well, that's it, because no one underneath us picked up 3 points, and we it was obviously the end of the world last week when we lost in the cup, and now it's much, much better. And I don't want to focus too much on the negatives, but we spent a long time talking about the cup defeat. How aware are the players of this terrible record we've got in the cup, and how much did that play on their minds? And is this now an albatross around the neck, or whatever the saying is, for you and the lads?
Yeah, I mean, we were aware of it, but for me personally, I don't think the poor record in the cup they had much impact. I mean, if you watch the game, certainly second half, we dominated pretty much all of it. Bar a mistake for their goal, I think we deserved to win. The difference was we didn't put the ball in the back of the net. We had majority of chances and possession. We just weren't clinical. So I don't really think you can put that down to a mental block on the cup, because we dominated the game. It was just purely down to they took their chance and we didn't take ours.
And we often, as you can imagine, we always on the podcast talk about the manager. Ian's been in the position for, I think it was last November, couple of Novembers ago he came in. You've played under a few coaches at QPR. Now that it's been a year and a bit, how different is him and his approach to the other guys that you played with under I beg your pardon, at the club?
Yeah, I think, the gaffer's different to every manager. I know. I mean, if you see him in interviews, you're getting a snippet of what we see every minute of every day. He doesn't change his, that's who he is. So he's a bit of a different character, which has certainly changed it up at QPR. And love him or hate him, you've got, you're getting a bit of excitement from him every day, and it's completely different to Jimmy. Jimmy was quite quiet and just went about his business. And the gaffer now obviously is very outspoken and opinionated and full of life. So he's certainly different.
And to ask you a question about Alex Smithies, I would say QPR fans generally feel you're very well liked amongst QPR fans is the first thing. And most fans probably think you're the best kept secret, certainly at QPR, maybe in the Championship. And then that always leads to questions about you, your future at the club. And, I suppose it's a very direct question. Will you be around for a while for us to keep enjoying watching you in goal?
I mean, I certainly imagine so. I mean, that's what I've got planned. I signed a contract to stay last season, and I expect to stay. I mean, the club's obviously changing in direction in the way it's looking at things. Obviously, it's getting younger players to come in, up and coming, and trying to develop them, and that's changed from the past where they were buying a ready-made player that's been there and done it. So the club's definitely changing. So for me, I'm more than happy, but at the same time, the club's going in a direction now where it will be picking up younger players, and there's a few things hanging over the club at the moment where there's a little bit of uncertainty. So you can never say never, but right now I'm happy.
Good to hear.
The thing is, Alex, I mean, not being funny, we know in life that if someone inferior to us happens just to be in the Premier League comes in, and obviously that situation arises. But while you're here, your penalty saves, your shop stopping, your distribution is wonderful. Them guys will be in your case all the time. You don't want to go on TV and get mauled by the immediates like Neville's in this world. Stay where you are, you're fine. Do you know what I mean? But the other thing is, I personally think you should be an international goalkeeper. Have you any relatives from Northern Ireland at all?
You know, I don't think I've got anything. No, I don't think I could play for anyone other than England. I played for England youth teams, under 16s, all the way through. So I enjoyed that as a youngster. But you know, every player wants to play at the highest level, whether that be the Premier League or international football. So I mean, I'd love to, but it's difficult.
Alex, you can't say this, but I can say this. There's not a whole bunch of English goalkeepers in the Premier League. And when Angus Gunn from Norwich is getting into the England squad, I've watched him once or twice, and he looks to be a good goalie. But he's no Alex Smithies.
I thought he's Scottish.
He's no Alex Smithies. And if goalies like that are good enough to get in the England squad, then you are good enough to get in the England squad. So it's a two-part question: is do you think you could get in around the international reckoning, playing in the Championship, playing at QPR, and what can we do to keep you at the club and help you get in that England squad?
On the other hand, Conor Washington needs a roommate.
Yeah, well, you know, with the Angus Gunn thing, obviously he's built up a little bit of a reputation in a very short space of time. You know, obviously I've been around. I played, 27, nearly played 400 games, so it's difficult. I mean, I've been.
So have you? You've nearly played 400 games, haven't you?
No, that's what I mean. I played nearly 400 games.
Oh, sorry.
He's only just come around. Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, that's sometimes difficult. When you see I've been around for a while and doing my best, for a long period of time. But he's obviously highly thought of. Am I right in saying he's from Man City? So maybe that makes a difference. I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors.
That's a good point, actually. You just mentioned is you're judged by your parent club rather than what league. Yeah,
and he's got
he's
got a good name. He's got a
he's
goalkeeping name, hasn't he? He's got the right genes.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, with his father. Yeah.
You think he'd play for Scotland, wouldn't you?
Yeah, true.
I mean, I'd want my daughter and my friends, hello Alex, to play for Northern Ireland.
I don't think he's got any Irish in him.
Jesus.
Alan, you had a question for Alex.
Yeah, Alex. So QPR, bizarrely, have had a tradition of fantastic goalkeepers over the years. Seaman, Phil Parkes, etc. And
Jan
Stayskill, Ron Springett, Peter Springett, all of those.
Mike Kelly.
Well, I'll have a story about Mike Kelly, but that's a different one. But you're right up there, and you are one of the best that I've seen in my 50-odd years of watching the club. The one thing that you haven't done yet that Phil Parkes did for me is he scored 2 goals from a goal kick. Come on now, from a drop kick. You got just those 2 things to do, and you're probably right up there with the best.
No pressure.
Have you ever scored a goal? Have you ever scored?
I've scored a penalty, but that doesn't really count, does it?
No, there's your target for the rest of the season.
If you let me take penalties, I'll be more than happy.
Talking of which, Alex, I mean, you were well renowned last season for your penalty, but I've noticed that when other teams get penalties against us now, they're picking the most unusual penalty takers. Have you noticed this? They're not going for the obvious, are they? They're trying to outthink you now, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, last season I sort of raised the point that I don't want to raise too much attention to sort of my record, especially that season. And that certainly came about in the media and things like that, and people reporting on it. And whether that's changed people's minds, because I've seen some players that would normally take penalties not take them, or some players that would always go one way have changed their mind. So there's I don't know whether that's necessarily been helpful, but hopefully I can save a few more this season and get back on track with that.
You'll be grand.
I don't expect you to give away your secret of saving penalties, but your record is awesome. Do you have a secret? And what I mean by that is, don't tell us what it is, but do you think you have a different approach to saving penalties, and you know what that is in comparison to other goalies? Or do you just think it's kind of the way that the cookie's crumbled and so far you've done all right?
No, I certainly have a theory behind it, what I do. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of thought that goes into it. It's not a matter of toss a coin, heads is left, tails is right, sort of thing. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. So when I see penalties, sometimes I think, why does the keeper dive that way? But maybe I'm thinking differently to some people. But I've conceded my last couple, so maybe we may need to relook at it.
Well, the odds are you're going to concede. Now, Alex, very important question. Last time you were on was around the time that you were banging the uprights of the goals the whole time with your studs. And I've noticed that you've really cut down on that and you barely ever do it. Why is that? Have you got new boots or something?
Yeah, you have to ask Nike about that. I mean, they've created a new boot with... I don't know what the technology is called, but mud doesn't stick to the bottom of them anymore.
Right.
It's sort of the black base. I'm wearing the red Nike Magista boots at the moment, and they've brought a sort of a base of the boot out that stops mud from collecting in between your studs. So it's quite I don't know how they do it, but they're obviously the consistency of the material that they've used.
So it wasn't a superstition. It was actually just to remove mud. That clatter that went around the ground is missed.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, just banging the mud away from in between the studs to make sure I didn't slip on goal kicks. But yeah, Nike have changed it up a bit, and it's stopped me from doing that.
Two very fast questions for you about goalkeepers. Do you think, first of all, you get enough credit you deserve as part of the team, and secondly, why do so many few keepers go into management?
Good question. The first question. I don't know. I think sometimes when a keeper's playing well, you're not necessarily talking about them a lot, and I don't actually mind that. I think a lot of the times when the keepers are talked about, it's because they've made a mistake. So sometimes to go under the radar a little bit, it's not always a bad thing. I think if people are talking about goalkeepers, it'd be after a mistake or conceding a load of goals, things like that. So if you're going under the radar, I sometimes think that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's difficult, certainly in the Championship, for people to rave about you because it's not getting the coverage that the Premier League's getting when you're making saves. When David De Gea makes a save, it's on repeat all week on Sky Sports News. So that's a little bit different.
The other one was about management.
Oh, I think mainly because goalkeepers have stood behind the ball the whole game. Whether I think that a lot of goalkeepers actually go into goalkeeping coaching, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Maybe because obviously they're specialised in that area, but also I think there's a little bit more safety in the job. To be honest, for some goalkeepers, if the manager goes, a lot of the times the goalkeeping coach stays. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
John.
Yeah, we've had quite a good period over the Christmas period. We've had a couple of wins and everything. It was a lot brighter. But we had a really difficult period leading up to that. Do you secretly enjoy those times when you are busy and perhaps looking good, even if we're not doing too well, and you're in the game?
If I'm really busy and we win the game, I've loved the game. But if I'm really busy and we lose the game, what good is it? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I remember a game in my first season we played Wolves on TV, and I had the game of my life, and we lost 2-0, and we lost 2-0. So no, do you know what I mean? As a goalkeeper, you can only control what you can control, and definitely a team game. And when you're having to get the best game you've had all season, you lose 2-0. But that's life as a goalkeeper, I suppose.
I've always wanted to ask a goalie this, or I've always wondered this. Why do goalkeepers always, after they've made an amazing save, they always shout at the nearest defender? They always scream in their face like the defender's done something wrong rather than they've actually made a great save. Why does that happen with every single goalkeeper?
Because you usually do.
Every single one? I'm not sure I do that all the time.
No, to be fair, you probably don't.
No. I don't know, but maybe it's a little bit of adrenaline, because that's it. Goalkeeper can go a little while in a game without a touch of the ball. So when the outfield players are involved quite a bit more, so maybe they just get a rush of adrenaline and think,
take it out on the nearest victim.
Help me out here.
Alex, couple more ones. It's been really great to see all the youngsters that have come through this season, which all the fans are really pleased to see and enjoy seeing. Give us a couple of names of a couple up and coming youngsters that we should watch out for at the club.
I think you should certainly watch out for Joe Lumley, the goalkeeper who's on loan at Blackpool. He done last year at Bristol Rovers and did really well. Competitions are high at QPR for goalkeepers, and I think he's certainly one for the future. I'm sure he'll have a fantastic career in the game. He's got a great attitude as well, which goes a long way. I mean, there's a whole host of names coming through. Ilias as well got a lot of talent. Avira, they're all very talented players, and I think with a little bit of experience and a bit more understanding of first team football, because it does differ from under 23 football when you put something on the line and jobs are on the line, and there's a lot riding on it. It changes the game, but they've got a lot of talent, and I think once they work out first team football, I think there'll be real good prospects for us.
Fair point.
Thank you very much. Alex, always good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming on again, and thanks for your performances.
Can I just add one more thing, Alex?
Yep.
To make it a perfect St Patrick's Day, when we play Fulham away, can you make sure you save more penalties and really piss them off?
I'll give it a go, mate. Hopefully they don't give them away, but yeah, if called upon, I'll give it my best.
Good, but I'll chuck you a Guinness hat from the crowd.
Brilliant, yeah, I'll put it on as well.
Nice one, big man.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right,
Cheers, big man.
Cheers,
anytime.
Alex.
Cheers, bye.
Cheers, lad.
Bye.
Cheers. Do you know what? That restores your faith in football, doesn't it?
He's a good lad,
Just
Alex
normal.
Smithies, isn't he? We've talked to him before. I think I've said this before. It's bloody tough being a goalkeeper because only one of them can play.
Yeah.
Now, even if you're being harsh on Alex Smithies and you say he's the 10th best English goalkeeper, which I think he's better than that, the 10th best English defender is playing in the Premier League. The 10th best English midfielder is playing in the Premier League. 10th best English striker. There's only 92 goalies can play in the whole league every week. And in a way, we reap the benefits of that because we get a goalie who is really far too good for this level playing at us because it's just hard. It's hard to get a game.
I know. I know one of the coaches, goalkeeping coaches that Alex had back in Huddersfield.
Yeah.
And he said that he was being looked at by England. I think he probably still is. But at the time when he was there, they thought he was too small, which seems bizarre to me.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's harder for him because doubtless he could get a Premier League gig, but will he be
I would say so.
first choice?
Yeah.
It's really weird when you see that Smithies is playing in Championship and Alex McCartney is playing in the Premiership.
Yeah.
That is a bizarre head movement of shaking,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, because I didn't really rate McCarthy that much. But what do I know about goalkeeping? But I think Smithies is certainly... He reminds me a lot of Peter Hooker. I don't know why, but there's similarities between him and Chris Woods that you can kind of see.
Chris Wood's probably more.
Yeah. You can kind of see, well, more than Hooker, the shot stopping, to be fair. His distribution is superb as well, but also in his... We give him a lot of work to do. I think the defence led to keep him busy, and if it wasn't for him, we would have lost so many points this season. I mean, he's worth more than a striker at times, and especially when you're going through a bad run when the striker's on score. And people forget against Millwall, he pulled off a number of world-class saves, which we later got back into the game and could have won it at the end. But he's worth his weight in gold, and I'm surprised. But then Premiership clubs would rather bring in somebody else from abroad and put them on the bench, sit down for 10 minutes. They don't take risks with English goalkeepers. I find that incredible because to me, I haven't seen that many goalkeepers. I mean, the gun thing's ridiculous. He's played a couple of times in Norwich. He's a Man City keeper, and you're right, he's in the England squad. It's incredible. He should bin him and go to Northern Ireland.
By all accounts, he's a good goalkeeper, Angus Gunn, but Alex Smithies is a phenomenal goalkeeper, so Angus Gunn would have to be amazing. But Angus Gunn is called Gunn, is the first thing. So his old man was a goalie. He's part of the establishment. He's at Man City, and Gareth Southgate knows him. So his face obviously fits.
I mean, if you look at the Paul Hart situation, how quickly he's fallen down.
Joe Hart.
Oh yeah, Paul Hart was our stupid manager.
Joe Hart.
Yeah, see, that's what happens when you get stuck in the 90s and the 2000s.
Let's not forget, Alex Smithies ended Rob Green's QPR career because he was a better goalkeeper
some would
than
say
him.
it's football career, really, because he went to that place up north, didn't he?
But he was a better goalkeeper than him.
But he always was. That's why I never understand.
Maybe it's best we just keep it quiet amongst ourselves.
I think so, yeah.
I mean,
But
no
if
one
he
believes
was-
you. When
if-
you say to non-QPR fans, we've got the most incredible goalie, no one believes you.
But
Anyway,
how much
so
is
it's
he
fine.
worth, seriously, do you reckon? He's got a long contract, that's sorted. I would say if we let him go for anything less than 7 or 8 million, we're mad. Judging by the fact that some keepers are worth 20 million.
Can I tell you something? His comment about Joe Lumley rang a few alarm bells for me. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
No, Joe Lumley is really good.
But why would you say we've got a great goalie coming through? Because if Alex Smithies is staying at QPR, Joe Lumley will not get a look in.
I'm hoping it's because he works with him, so he knows him.
Yeah.
well.
You asked
He
him
works
who's
with
coming
him.
through, and he told you.
Yeah.
But hang on, he's not coming through though, because Alex Smithies is the goalkeeper. So
Yes.
either what I'm saying is I'm like taking 3-4 steps forward and completely hypothesising. But does that mean Alex Smithies thinks Alex Smithies is going and actually Joe Lumley will be the goalie next year?
I think what he said is, if you look at it that way, that you got Ingham and you got Lumley in reserve. So if I do go, you won't be that badly off, perhaps.
And he is the keeper that will take over when he does go, whatever happens.
Ingram, no?
He is. Well, I think possibly Ingram, but I think that's what Smithies was saying.
Lumley
He's
was brilliant
the
at Bristol
keeper,
Rovers. He was absolutely. I mean, they were absolutely distraught when he left. I'm not just exaggerating. They were really upset. He is a properly decent keeper.
Okay.
We've always had decent keepers, apart from the odd one like Bancoley.
What should we talk about now? Last few minutes.
We got Borough.
We've got Borough. Mark Bircham bit on Twitter this week. He did a Paul Finney.
Have you not noticed? I've been a lot calmer on Twitter these days. I just mute people that annoy me. It's brilliant. I just mute them and say, I'm not going to see you anymore. Because if I go back and read them, I'll respond to them. I just mute them now. And they think they're talking to me and I can't see what they're saying. I'm happy with that. But
So he got a bit of criticism
Has
on
he not?
Twitter and he bit back.
okay, first of all, the first message he responded to was someone saying to him, I hope you pick up your P45. Now
That was after the equaliser went in. That person sent that
doesn't
tweet
matter.
to
You
him,
shouldn't
wasn't it?
say that. That's ridiculous. By all means, have a go at these people. By all means, be critical. But to say to someone, hope you pick up your P45, that's just a bit nasty. And you're going to get a reaction. Like I said about Holloway, I want Ian to prove me wrong. I want Ian to go on to win every game this season and make me eat my words, which I'm more than happy to do. Because at the end of the day, we all want QPR to do well. But there are some people on Twitter, David, which I find incredible, who are pissed off when we win. And
Yeah.
I do not understand it. I'm the most miserable gobshite ever that walked this earth and negative.
Agreed.
But why the hell do people want us to lose? And then there's Bircham. I mean, if you're going to pick a Bircham, then you might as well pick a Fleming. You might as well pick in the kit man. You might as well pick in Jude DeCat. I mean, I don't get it why Bircham is singled out sometimes, because he is one of us. He is a fan. He loves the club. I just don't. We want people who love the club, and then like Les Ferdinand gets crap, Bircham gets crap, Kevin Gallen gets crap. It's like, really?
I guess his apology that he's going to be here another week was actually quite well taken. So it was, he cares, same as Holloway does. He cares.
Yeah.
Let two youngsters go this week. Can they still be called youngsters? Petrasso and Gregor Cox.
Not really. They should
Just the natural order of things.
I think,
not quite going to make it.
I don't think they were quite going to make it, and I think the ones coming through are better, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's the hard facts. I think that the ones that we've got coming are potentially going to be better. So
It's sad about
You
Gregor
have to do
Cox
that,
because
yeah.
he hung around long enough. Like, if people go back to you've been around a long time. And, you know, the Graham brothers were brilliant. They hung around too long. Joe Cole and Nets was around. Not Joe Cole, Jack Cole. Jeez, I'm getting names. Jake
Cole.
I shouldn't have gone to Wetherspoons for lunch. It was a big mistake, and I apologise. Anyway, I'll get slaughtered on Twitter for getting everything wrong. But you know, they kind of hang around the club too long, like Doherty, and they have to
Yeah.
move on. And I think it's both best for both players that they do move on. It's sad they didn't make it because both of them at one time looked absolutely outstanding prospects.
Although you've got to suggest that their lack of game time didn't do them any
Maybe.
favours. Petrasso, for his Canada experiences, was top man, one of their real prospects.
He was amazing at wing back when he played for them.
Yeah, didn't get the chance with us. I expect he'll make it.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
That'll be
you
interesting.
make it at some standard. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Whereas Gregor was different. He went on Newport and loan and stuff and didn't really cut the
No,
mustard.
he didn't do it, did he?
But then
He's been picked up somewhere in the
he's playing
conference I
for
saw.
Woking, I think. Stuff like that.
Woking,
That's
yeah.
what I said, Woking.
Yeah.
It's my accent, is it? Anyway,
Yeah.
but it's sad because you want these kids to come through and do well because at the end of the day it saves the club an absolute fortune in transfers.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's needed. And I think seeing young Smith come through and it makes you feel a lot of hope, even though we brought him from some bunch of bin-lids back in Ireland.
And Furlong. Furlong is homegrown. And he's
Manning.
Yeah.
These are all
Yeah, Manning's a bit of a strange one, isn't
Shadipo.
it?
Where's Shadipo? But they're all good players that I think.
Shadipo's like Wade Faraday, isn't he? You just want to see him on the pitch, see how
Yeah.
fast he can run,
Yeah,
and see
exactly,
people
yeah.
chasing him again.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Ours End.
Are you going to talk about Middlesbrough?
Well, we'll talk about Middlesbrough at the end, won't we?
It's your show. You tell me how you want to do it.
My show.
Let's make it our
When have you ever thought that?
last Tuesday.
So this is
Let's make it
anything
Harry's
else? Anything else that we haven't talked about that we should talk about? I do have. We got an email this week, as they say.
You've actually produced an email as
I have
well.
an email from Michael Olive. Evening, gents. Big fan of the show, although I'm a relative newcomer this season. Welcome, Michael. Just wondered if you could help support a charity event I'm doing this Easter, starting on Pod Friday. It says I'm running/walking from Southport to Hornsey over 10 days. I'll be in Hull when QPR are playing away. I'm raising money for Children with Cancer UK and Make-A-Wish Foundation. I'll get my donation pages set up later this month, but anything you can do will be appreciated, including a shout out. Good luck, Michael. Thank you. Right.
To be fair, Make-A-Wish are a brilliant charity, and if he's at Hull, I think we should all support him. Buy him a pint and give him some money.
Send us your fundraising page, Michael, and we will tweet it. Good luck with that. Ours End. The only thing I thought was interesting this week. Do you guys know what the Rooney Rule is, which they've talked a lot about this week?
It's not
You know
about
that
her
when I say the
transplants, is
Rooney
it?
Rule? So this was an NFL rule.
Someone laughs at me. I like this guy. Can we bring him back?
What was your gag? I ignore most of them. What was it?
I just said, it's not about hair transplant, is it? The Rooney Rule?
Oh, because Wayne Rooney had a hair transplant.
You just ruined it. Carry on.
The Rooney Rule is a rule implemented by the FA, which is to basically make sure that black and ethnic minority managers get a fair hearing and get interviewed for positions. And it's a new rule that all BAME candidate, all positions at the FA will now include a BAME candidate, and it's named the Rooney Rule after a coach in the NFL. Now, this was brought in this week. The FA announced that next time that Gareth Southgate's position is up, they will interview a BAME candidate. And as part of that, there was a list printed of BAME coaches in the Football League, which is frankly shocking and inadequate. I think across the 71 clubs, there's something like 15 black and ethnic minority coaches. The only, I suppose, slight high point for us lot on this podcast is 20% of them are employed at QPR. 20% of all the black and ethnic minority coaches in the entire Football League, which admittedly is still not that high, I think it's 4, are employed at QPR. So, in my opinion, long overdue rule, but well played QPR for at least trying to do
I
our
think
bit.
in the week that we lost Sir Regis as a football community, you have to read his book and realise the absolute vile horribleness that man played through in the games that he did, and how he walked tall and did what he did was amazing. And for anyone to turn around and say, oh, why are we giving preference to this, that and the other, read his book, read his autobiography, think about it. It's horrible. The abuse these people get is absolutely horrible. And racism has no place in football, and that means everyone. You shouldn't judge anyone on colour. It should always be about ability, but at the same time we've got to understand and realise that there is an old boys network in football, and it'd be nice to see different people breaking through. I've noticed a lot more physios are women at football clubs, which is a good thing, and football is becoming more diverse, and it should be, because we're in the year 2018 now. There's no reason why more people of different backgrounds, no matter where you come from, can grow up in any area of London, be in a council estate, and want to be part of a football network. It's football is hope, and that's hope for us all.
Thank you, Paul. That was your R's End, right?
Nope.
Go on then.
My hour's end is George Sharp.
George. So this is,
Yes.
he must be 9 now.
You're absolutely-
9, maybe 10.
You're terrible
He's
with
our
figures, big man.
youngest active listener. Listens, I think, every week. Sends in emails every now and again. He's even been on the show. What's he up to?
It's his 10th birthday on Thursday. So he's 10. George, happy birthday, big man! And your dad's a wee bit of a podcast legend, and it's always good to have him on. And your emails and that are welcome. My own hours end of the show is
Happy birthday, George.
Happy birthday, George. Sorry. Yeah, can we all say happy birthday?
Happy birthday,
Happy
George.
birthday.
Have a great one.
I had a bit of a shock this week. I'll be honest with you. I nearly had to have a lie down. There's a fella called Stephen Cross who I'm godfather to his daughter. He's godfather to my daughter. So you kind of know each other quite well. He supports Glentoran. I support Glentoran. He's from Northern Ireland. I'm from Northern Ireland. Known him for decades. He's a Queen's Park Rangers fan. Had a season ticket and everything back in the day. Gets to loads of games. I'm a Queen's Park Rangers fan from Northern Ireland. He only started listening to the podcast this week. You are the worst best friend anyone could ever have, Steve. And if you listen to this podcast, I am absolutely disgusted it took you this long. His reason being is, I can phone you up and listen to your shite. Why do I need to put it through my car?
Which is a fair point.
Fair point.
Which is
It's
a
a
fair
shocking point.
Does your wife listen, by the way?
No.
Because mine doesn't. She listened to that first year we did, 2011-12. So for 5 years, she hasn't listened.
I don't think anybody knows
No.
this podcast because I don't really know that many people.
No. I think we just talk to ourselves.
Do you know what? It feels like it's like an echo chamber sometimes, isn't it? Anyway,
where
thank
should we
you,
go
Stephen,
first?
for coming to the
Alan,
podcast.
you look like you're struggling with a bad back. So let's get
yes.
your R's in first, so you can treat your
How bad is your back?
troublesome back.
Painful, though.
Well, no, too much work on the allotment today, I think, is there.
Right.
Is it okay?
What are you growing?
Oh, what am I growing at the moment? So just garlic and onions at the moment, but
Very
plenty
good.
to do for
Very
the rest
good.
of the year.
Very good. Very good.
Have I got anything to say at the R's end? Not really. I just reiterate what I said earlier on. I think Alex Smith is right up there as one of the best keepers we've had for a very long time. So,
And a damn
Absolutely.
nice fella.
and it seems to be. Yeah.
John.
I'm going to do a Finney and do 2. If I
Okay.
can.
You
That's-
can't.
that'd be really
No,
quick.
that's not doing a Finney. Doing a Finney is doing
Okay,
4.
that's true. My first one is I'm really sad that Plymouth didn't get through to the third round this season, because if they do, when they do, can the FA please arrange for us to play them in the third round, and then it's an
Good
FA
shout.
Cup final, because that will be whoever wins that is the.
Should they play at
the least
Wembley?
worst. They should play at the Wembley. Actually,
Make
That's a
some
good
more
point.
guest of honour
yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Please, and they arranged for Liverpool and Everton to play each other in the third round this season. So if we could play Plymouth next season, that would be brilliant.
You're not suggesting the balls are warm sometimes, are you?
No. Heaven forbid. And the second one is a little bit more serious. We talk about the family stand a lot, which I sit in, and I do understand people's frustration with potential atmosphere. I've got something a bit outrageous to suggest about the stadium, and hopefully to improve the facilities there until we get a new stadium, whenever that is. I think we should reduce the capacity. Because, and I said to you earlier that I looked at the average attendances over the last couple of seasons. When we were in the Premiership, we were averaging 17,000. For the last couple of years, it's 14 and a half. Our biggest crowd in the last couple of seasons is 16,500.
Wow.
So even if you took 3,000 seats away, that would still be the biggest crowd. You'd still fit the biggest crowd of the season in, and you could put terracing in. Brentford have got terracing. You could put terracing in behind the goal and then move this family stand to the side. It won't happen. None of this will happen, of course. But if you took seats out, you could improve facilities
to be
around
honest,
the stadium and make it a little bit more attractive for fans until we do move into a new stadium.
The problem is, with the family stand,
interesting.
it used to be only night games that it was pretty 50-50
yeah.
split of being full, not full. Now it's creeping into Saturday games. There's definitely, and it's got the best facilities. You can buy food. It's much better than being in Suffolk Road. We got nothing. But you got the beer tents, you got the food tents, you got everything. So they're trying their best to get people in there, and it's just weird that it's just not catching on. Perhaps they should relax the rules a little bit.
I think definitely evening games, they've got to sort the ticket allocation out. It costs me to when I bring my eldest to, I have to pay full adult prices for them, and it's because my little ones won't be able to come on a school night. They should definitely lower the prices for season ticket holders whose younger kids couldn't come. That would definitely improve
That's an
attendance.
interesting suggestion.
But I think a lowered capacity
That will never happen.
It will
That
never
is an
happen.
interesting
Yeah, but
suggestion.
I think it would improve things there.
Out of interest, your kids, who's their favourite? Who are their favourite players? I'm always interested. in
My
this.
Stanley, who's 7, is Jamie Mackey.
Okay.
And that's purely because Jamie Mackey will come up and say hello to him before
Yeah.
the match when they're warming up. And the little one is 3 and just likes Jude. Jude is probably his favourite player.
Yeah.
The older ones are just resigned to watching QPR, shouting a lot.
The weirdest experience I had was the other week when we bumped into Darnell Furlong, and my nephew knows him quite well. And he's 19, he's trying to be cool and that sort of thing, and he's got his QPR shirt on and he's trying to cover it up and all that sort of thing. And Darnell's going, "So, you alright, do you want to lift back?" And he's like, no, my uncle, crazy Irish guy, supports QPR, he's going to take it back. And he's like, "Darnell Furlong offered me a lift." And they go go-karting together. And I've got to say...
He offered him a lift in his go-kart.
Exactly. But he does say that his family are the nicest family ever, and I just wish Paul and his family all the best, because they're not going through a good time. People might not know this, but I do. And good luck, Paul. You're a legend at QPR, and hopefully we'll get you out in the pitch one day and give you a good clap.
Which all that leaves us to do is the predictions for Middlesbrough.
Ah, fick.
Who would like to go first?
Get him to go first because his back's so good.
Go on then. I'll go first. It's going to be a close game. I'm going to sadly say probably 1-0 Middlesbrough or a 1-1 draw.
We'll take the 1-1 draw. John?
I'm going to go 2-1 QPR.
Paul? Into the microphone if you don't mind.
Sorry, I'm just remembering I forgot my R's end. It would have been Mick Leach's 71st birthday today, which we mentioned.
Whose?
So,
I didn't hear.
Okay. And I apologise for not mentioning that on my R's end. I meant to and I forgot. So his family and everything else, proper QPR person. I don't know. For once, I'm kind of thinking we could absolutely take someone to the cleaners. And I'm going for 3 or 4-0 Saturday. I think we're going to turn up and absolutely give it gun-ho, go for it, and absolutely destroy them.
We are now this week. We think all is well at QPR again, so that must mean there's a banana skin coming, and I would never predict a defeat, so I'll go 1-1.
Do you know
which is a euphemism for
the worst thing
maybe not the
do you know the biggest
Saturday.
fraud in football is, David?
The biggest fraud in football is the fella who was chairman of Glasgow Rangers, wasn't he?
That's one of them.
Yeah.
Sepp Blatter.
Yeah.
The other one is hope. And
Yes.
that's all we got at times.
Well, let's hope for a good result this weekend, and
3-0 Rangers.
we'll be back next week. Thank you for listening.
QPR, QPR, Pittsburgh Rangers.